On behalf of the Holyoke Public Library and the Puerto Rican Cultural Project, welcome. A nombre de la Biblioteca Pública de Holyoke y el Proyecto Cultural Puertorriqueño, bienvenidos. You are in the new Puerto Rican capital of USA. The highest concentration of Puerto Rican outside the island is Holyoke. In the last 5 years, we have doing a lot of cultural projects in Holyoke. The Holyoke Public Library have a concert every December with Jose González Cuatrista, Joe Vélez, William Cepeda came here, and the last was, I'm not familiar with this guy, was a Jazz Latino on Main Street. What's the name? Jose Valentino, who used to teach in Lee University in Tennessee, now is in Florida. In addition, we have the speaker series that with Grito del Área Hispanic American Library, we invited Nelson Dennis when he was in the best release of New York Times. The last speaker was Carlos Santiago, Commissioner of Higher Education in Massachusetts. He's Puerto Rican. Por lo tanto, we are now connecting with MIFA that maybe we can collaborate between the library, Holyoke, public media, the newspaper El Sol Latino, and the Puerto Rican Cultural Project. Sometimes this kind of event don't show the person, sometimes it's packed. However, I think this project is a long-run project because one of the issues is that, especially Puerto Rican, everybody thinks that we only play salsa, merengue, bachata, and we are doing something different. That's the case that we invited Valentino, Latino jazz, to break the mold and to bring different personnel. Por lo tanto, I think that will be nice to present yourself. I am Manuel Frau Ramos. I used to teach at UMass. Now I have my own newspaper. I read whatever I want without any problem. And also I organize the Puerto Rican Cultural Project. Let's begin. Yo.
My name is Carlos Carrillo. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I currently teach at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign in Illinois. Yeah, what else you would like to know?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Whatever you want.
Well, we can talk later. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Ivan Enrique Rodriguez, not to be confused with Ivan Rodriguez, the baseball player. I'm this year doing the residency for next year's concert. I'm also from Puerto Rico. I heard someone here that is also from Caguas, which is from Caguas.
No, it's not here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm from Caguas, Centro y Corazón de Puerto Rico.
The godfather of the Puerto Rican community, Henry Flores from Caguas.
Right, yes, yeah, homie. So I'm currently pursuing my DMA at Juilliard School, and I'm super excited to be here.
Hello, my name is Cristian Quiñones. I'm here for the second time. I came last year to do the residency that he's doing now. And so now they will be performing the piece that I actually composed in the meantime in the year before this. And I study at the Conservatorio de Música de Puerto Rico and my undergrad. And right now, the next fall, I will start my MM at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana with Professor Carlos Carrillo. So I'm really excited to be here and just to see this kind of events happening.
I'm Tony Salitro. I am also here for the second year, and my piece will be performed on Friday and Saturday at El Mercado. I grew up in Worcester, but now I'm based in Philadelphia.
I'm Tien. I'm from the other side of the world. I'm from Singapore, and I live here in Holyoke. And about 4 years ago, Don and I started talking about the possibility of having a music group, a new music group here that serves as a magnet drawing different communities together to the heart of Holyoke. And we dreamed up the Victory Players together. And the first project I said, like, if we have a music project here in Holyoke, we have to work with the Puerto Rican community. Because, you know, this is by far the largest population, and there's so much heritage to explore, and that there is not so much that even the public schools, we don't hear enough about it. So we want to kind of be part of that. So here we are.
No, I live in the community. That's it.
Thanks for coming.
I'm Kathy McKean. I'm the managing director of MIFA, and we have the pleasure of inviting all of these wonderful folks to come for 2 weeks and make beautiful music, and we hope you'll all join us Friday or Saturday night. It should be absolutely spectacular. So.
My name is Evelyn Quiñones and I live here in the community.
Diosdado Lopez, simple.
It's great. Juan Falcone, I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm here to not only recognize, but also to emulate my friend Manoa Frau and bring art and various activities to Springfield so we can join forces.
My name is Maiva Rivera. I'm one of the staff here at the library. I'm here to listen and to learn as well.
I'm Don Sanders. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of MIFA Victory Theater. Kathy and I are so proud to be working with Chien on this project. This is a great, great project for Holyoke, for a great medium like music, and particularly everybody that we now speak to who understands the variety of music from Puerto Rico and the soul and the intensity and the extent to which it has not been recognized, in my opinion. This is an effort to make that happen. And also, it's just great that everybody's here as a residency, having a good time, and that's where it comes from. So thank you. And I have to leave early, so but I wanted to be here at the beginning. So congratulations.
I'm Emily Rochford. I am the production assistant at MIFA. It's my second year doing this with you guys. It was a great privilege to do it last year. When I was asked to do it again this year, I was fully on board, so I want to thank you guys for being here. And I hope you have fun.
Yep. Let me add there is a person, Robert Piñeiro, he's a musician from Caguas, has a group, one of the Sanabria, member of the family Sanabria, is the singer of that group. Also, let me emphasize that probably Hollywood has one of the highest concentration of musicians, especially from Ponce Salina. It's plena, bomba, and salsa.
Right.
You can find a musician anywhere in Holyoke that usually play with La Sonora Ponceña. Yeah, there's a lot of musicians, but they're not here. But I think in the future we can connect with them and have something community-oriented. Okay, well,
very exciting.
So
I wanted to talk this was a unique opportunity for everybody to meet the composers and actually have a conversation about their creation process. Normally you come to a concert and we talk very briefly the piece is about, and then we move on. But here's an opportunity to actually meet the composers and talk with them. So I wanted to start first with to just describe what happens. We invite 3 composers to come every single year. They are here with the ensemble for 2 weeks. During that time, they get to meet the players. They get to talk to each other and get to know each other better. But also then they get to know the characteristics of the players themselves and write music for the players, and the players get to kind of inform their decisions as to composition as well. And this is a rare opportunity for within our world of classical music to have the luxury to actually talk and develop relationships. And then after that they have 1 year to develop all the ideas that they have started experimenting with here. And then, so in the second year they come back, and then we present for the first time a world premiere of their works. So this year, and as was described, Carlos and Ivan represent 2 out of the 3 composers who are here. We have also Lilia Ugay, who has an 8-month-old child, so it's a bit difficult for her to join us for this. And then and last year we had Christian and Tony come, and so this year we're presenting their works, and we have a 3rd composer, Omar Sorillo, who is still teaching right now in Texas classes, so he can only come on Friday just in time for his, or on Thursday actually, just in time to listen to his performance and to give final feedback. So with that, I'm actually going to start firstly with the 2 composers whose works were premiering this year, because they've had the chance to work with us last year for 2 weeks, to chit-chat with us along the way, and then now actually to session the music. And I'm going to start with Christian's music first. I pulled out the synopsis that he wrote for his piece. And if you could just tell them about your influences, and then talk a little bit about your piece, then we can go look at the text here.
Musical influence?
Yeah, or just in general.
Okay, so when I started as a musician, like I was literally all over the place. I'm an electric bass player, so I basically played everywhere that I could, on salsa groups, jazz, rock, whatever. So when I started as a composer, that kind of was a really mixed background that I didn't know what to do. And for a long time as a composer, I had that kind of problem in a way, but later actually I think it's a great opportunity to make different things. But as a musician, I think that has played a lot for what I'm doing today, being able to have all of these different backgrounds. So for me, in a way, the influence for this type of music, especially for what my mother wrote, is actually...
the name of the piece.
Yeah. It's actually a mix between... let me see how to describe this. I try, in a way, to just take the Caribbean music and the music from Puerto Rico, but to try to make something a little bit different. Just in a way, as you were saying, break the mold of what Puerto Rican music can be. So sometimes I can start like composing with literally material. For example, actually, I don't know if you know this, but when I started composing the piece, I actually started with a montuno, and then I took the notes, and then I basically distorted the whole thing, and it became like another texture, more abstract, more soft. So for me, it's the influence is always there. You know, since I was playing in all this group jazz or salsa, that's in a way like my initial source material. But then I get to experiment with these elements and try other things. So basically, when Tian approached me last year to do this piece, my initial idea was actually to make something real rhythmic and in a way kind of stereotypical of the Puerto Rican music. But then
I'm gonna play stupid foreigner here. What is a montuno?
Basically, in montuno, in many genres, especially in salsa, you're gonna find the pam pe pam para ba bam. It's basically a pattern in the piano, especially, that is gonna repeat itself, and it's basically the whole base of many Latin music. So that's really characteristic of, when you hear that, it's really characteristic of our music. When I began with those initial ideas of making something real rhythmic and with the salsa influence and whatever, I found out that actually I didn't want to do that. That I wanted to make something literally on the other side, and that I was feeling a little bit trapped of what my people expect from me. So I decided just to, hey, like, yes, I'm a Puerto Rican, but also I'm a human being like everyone else, and I have to have the freedom to choose, not to be boxed in. And I asked my mother to literally write whatever she wanted, literally whatever. And she actually wrote this beautiful poem. I don't know if it's of the, oh yeah, that it's the one that you're seeing on the bottom of the screen.
Between us? And us?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting you, but when I had you, it was love at first sight. I felt your heart beating. In my heart, a new woman was born. Sensible, fearful of all the dangers, wary and protective. Between us, there is a dedication, and a disinterested love, a pure feeling. There is nothing in this world compared to my love to you, to transform my world. So basically, she wrote this, and for me, it was perfect, because of course she's writing as a Puerto Rican about the first time that she actually was a mother. And for me, it's the idea of writing about something universal. You know, of course, you know, families are all over the world, but through the lens of a Puerto Rican person. So it's a universal idea in a Puerto Rican context. So I actually did the same, and that's why I started with Amontuno. This is a Puerto Rican idea, but I'm gonna transform it into something else, because that's what we do, you know. And it doesn't matter if you're Puerto Rican or whatever you are, you know, you have different experiences, and that makes you like who you are as a person. So you may hear some elements of Puerto Rican music on what my mother wrote, but the whole idea is that they are there not to sound like Latin music. They are there because those are my influences. I come from that, but I don't have only to limit myself to that. I also have other elements that I wanted to explore, and so I kind of tend to move freely between different worlds in that sense. So that's basically it.
I want to, I mean, I'll open up the floor to questions in a bit, but I just wanted to add that, you know, because this is such an interesting view for anybody who is kind of intercultural. This is one of the things that we have to kind of deal with, and this was something that was really fascinating. We spent a lot of time last year talking about it. Christian was staying with me, and about this, and also the aspect of how our young people here in Holyoke have to deal with these issues, both in terms of identity, as first generation, if they're coming here as new immigrants from to this city, but also as people who are second generation and having to kind of deal with the different kind of aspects, and where do you do that? And we thought that would be very interesting for young people to look at this, but not just from the Puerto Rican lens, but also for young people throughout the valley, actually. So we just did a school show on Monday where we went to Gateway Regional Middle School and had this discussion. So they had the opportunity to talk with Christian about these very themes that he just mentioned. And tomorrow we will go to Jacobi Comprehensive as well as Holyoke High School to share these.
I work there.
Yeah. Oh, so we'll see each other. Jacobi? You'll meet the whole ensemble if you want to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome. I'm like, I'm a substitute, so I work there every day, but I don't get the email. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. 1 p.m.
The kids know.
Yes.
I don't get emails.
Yes. So, yeah. So, any questions thus far?
See, what age did you become interested in music?
And why I became interested in music?
At what age?
What age? I actually started when I was 8 years old. I started music because of the public systems in Puerto Rico that, the musical programs. So I I was first into art. I was painting, but then my older brother, he plays trombone. And I was literally, every time he was practicing, I was always on the side just trying to figure out what he was doing. So when I was 8 years old, I literally stopped the art classes and just went for music. And then actually I was assigned the electric bass. I didn't choose it because of course they choose you the instrument that they need. So I started my music classes in a small marching and concert band in Quebradillas. And then after that, I started taking classes at La Escuela Libre de Música, which is basically an after-school music program that they have. And I see when actually I had to travel, well, my mother had to travel like an hour and 10 minutes just to get there, and then wait for us for the classes, and then come back to Kamui. So it was a lot. Yeah, we normally would arrive at our home at basically 7:30 p.m. or something like that. So it was an amazing sacrifice from my parents to actually do that, for me to get like more advanced classes and actually get theory classes and not just instrument classes. So yeah, eventually I basically got interested in composing because of film scores. Then I discovered the whole classical music world, and then I applied for the music conservatory, and that's basically when I really got into it. Any other question?
Thank you.
We have the little spinning wheel of death. So,
Well, let me add that there is two musicians from Quebradilla, Jesús Pagani from Quebradilla, y ¿cómo se llama la merenguera?
Raquel Maldonado. Maldonado.
Maldonado.
I don't know them.
Yeah, from Quebradilla.
No, they've been here for years.
Yes,
Oh,
they
okay.
are well known.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually I'm from Kamui, but because in Kamui, none of the school had the music program, my mother actually brought us to school at Quebradillas because it was the only one in the area which had the music program. So it was like really important from the start that we actually had the option, even though she wasn't like, oh, you gotta be a musician or whatever, but she really wanted for us to have the option just to take the classes, and we were interested, like, hey, I wanna do this, or if not, it was like, okay. So for me, it was like really amazing, like for my parents to actually, have that vision and actually, make a lot of sacrifices for that to happen.
You probably know Jose Pache Cruz.
I think I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to live in Holy for years. And we did some projects with young folks, and we did good.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah. But he went back to Puerto Rico. He finished his master and decided to go back to San Juan. So he's over there.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Well, Pache
Music
can play.
score?
yes. So I'm going to ask Christian to actually pull out a couple pieces.
Sure.
And while he's doing that, I just wanted to mention, so I just loaded down class so you can get.
Yeah, do you prefer
Yeah,
what
yeah,
my
yeah.
brother wrote?
I found it, but it wouldn't play. The Google Drive is going too slowly. SoundCloud is moving faster.
Okay.
So maybe something.
I have a private link on SoundCloud. I can access it.
Sure. Yeah. And so while Christian's doing that, I wanted to introduce our next composer. I'll let him talk more about himself. But how did we find these composers to begin with? It's probably a question. So we did an open call, and knowing that because this is a new group and the people didn't really necessarily know about us, we made sure to email it to the major composition teachers as much as possible. So last year's ensemble manager, Amanda Standers, and I emailed something like 80 to 100 people. Just like we went to every website and found the composition professors' names and emailed them individually to get them. And we're very glad to have some of them. Oh, you already have it? Yes, this is better. Yeah. Okay.
Which one?
This one is actually the one I wrote for this year.
Yes. This is the piece that we've been bringing to different schools.
More volume? Or is that good?
That's good.
That's good, yeah.
So basically, you can see that doesn't sound Puerto Rican at all. So that was the whole thing. And actually, the melody that you hear in the violin, it's taken from a Willie Colon song with Willie Colon actor La Voz Piraña, and it's actually a trombone part backwards. So it's basically taking all of these Puerto Rican elements and just distorting them and doing different things. But of course, in the part 2, which actually was the one that I got to work more on the after for the year, this past year, there are actually present like elements that you can actually recognize and say, oh, those are Puerto Rican rhythms, and especially in the middle and the end. So again, it's the idea that they don't have to be there, in order for that music to be Puerto Rican. But they're gonna be always my kind of initial source material to make music.
Let me add something.
Yeah.
Miguel Zenon came to UMass in February with the new CD. And we had the same conversation, that was Puerto Rican, it was not Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And basically, you was open to discussion if that was a Puerto Rican music or not Puerto Rican music.
Yeah. Basically, I think Puerto Rican music is literally like anything that it's made by a Puerto Rican. It's as simple as that, and even like Puerto Rican genres like salsa, they were made mostly by Puerto Ricans, but it was born at New York, and it was a mix of different things. So, and now it's considered Puerto Rican, but there was a time that was probably not considered Puerto Rican or whatever. So yeah, I think it's, for me, that is important. That actually, have that freedom.
Thank you.
Who will next?
So, and as I said, we sent out a call for scores, and for people to propose projects. But one of the things I wanted to do was to make sure that we didn't ghettoize this music. We didn't say only Puerto Ricans need apply, only people from Puerto Rico need apply, only second generation. So, and all the different ways in which people separate the people from one another. Instead, we made an open call, and I was quite pleased that last year we had, in effect, representation in 3 different ways, because we had Christian, who was still living in Puerto Rico, and is about to move out. And then we had Omar, who left Puerto Rico, I think, like in high school.
Yeah, really young.
And then and then has been working in Texas as a music professor. And then we have Tony, who is coming from, in a way, an outsider's perspective, looking in at this Puerto Rican heritage. And so, there's 3 different ways of engaging with this, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just, like one segment. And this is one of the ways in which I hope that, when people come to this project and they listen to different music, they can also see this is somebody else's way into this culture. It's not just insiders talking about their own music. So I'm so happy to have Tony here with us. And Tony and I met in an opera project earlier that year, I think. And so I'll leave him to tell you more about his own kind of compositional journey and the piece that he's writing for us.
My compositional journey is not very interesting, so.
He says modestly.
But I love to find inspiration in other arts. So I take inspiration from visual artists and poets and novelists and theater and anything that I can look at. And so for this project, I proposed an homage to Julia de Burgos and started with her poetry as a springboard. So similar to what you did.
Oh, yeah.
I guess we both started with a poem.
Yeah.
Well, I started with a lot of poems because I went through the book and I added just all kinds of sticky notes all throughout the place and was underlining things and not really looking for any specific themes, but just finding what resonated with me. And then when I thought about it later, I realized that a lot of the poems that I had picked did have a lot of things in common. And it was that they were about revolution, political upheaval, and about what are we doing as artists when the world is so crazy and we're making beautiful things, or we are experiencing joy, and what right do we have to experience joy? And shouldn't we be doing something to make the world better, or are we making the world better somehow? And so the poems that I chose were ones that engaged with those ideas and thoughts. And so I responded to them in different ways. Some of them I took a little fragment of text and I tried to represent that sonically. Others I treated like an art song, and I set the text to music and imagined that somebody might be singing it, and then gave those vocal lines to various instruments. You get the poems. They're so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you went through a lot of poetry, right? And I just looked at things 120. So would you share with us some of the things that you picked, and what particularly? I mean, you've said in general.
Yeah. So.
You can follow it from there too.
Yeah. So this was one of the, my piece kind of starts with this as a springboard, the idea of a voice coming into being. And I interpreted that in two ways. One, there's an artistic voice that's coming alive. We find our voice as an artist, and what do we have to say, and why should anybody listen to what we have to say? But then there's also the voice of the people that comes together to create political change.
I have a question. Martin, Jose Martin?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a song to him, and
Okay.
and my song is to Julia. So it's a long tradition of homage. But yeah, so this is about the awakening of a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beginning, and I thought that was a fitting beginning from where I wanted to go. Should I read some of it, or?
Sure.
Or I'll let you all read. With a voice barely begun, barely gathered, barely made, with a voice floating between horizons of longed-for liberty without possessing it, with a crying voice surrounded by robust uniforms and by stars, with a voice that escapes through waves, from a heavy weariness of chains, with a wounded voice that drags itself below the scream of America incomplete, with a voice of anguish unheard, where the soul of my land wanders, with a voice of exasperated soil, I come to tell you, Saint, to awaken. And so that's the first minute of my piece is focused on this text. And then I imagine when this voice comes into being, the voices gather and there's a protest chant. And so maybe we have this poem here as well. This one. So this is one of the main themes. I thought that it would be a protest chant that I could go on YouTube and find the rhythm of the actual chant or find the melody and use that. But it wasn't a chant. This was something that was written in blood as a man was dying. So it became a symbol, and yet I put a rhythm to it and put a melody to it as if it were a protest chant. And this is a theme that comes back a few times in the first half of the piece. And in long live the Republic, 1,000 branches will resprout, and through the heroic sap you will raise the nation to bring us the weapons of our liberty. And then interspersed with these, I go into this song because I imagine that when a voice comes into being and then gathers together to protest and to ask for freedom and ask for rights, that then there's also joyful songs that, and that's it from another line in another one of Julia's poems. So this is one of the joyful songs that in that section where all the voices are overlapping. This is the text that I am setting, and that I'm imagining that they're all singing, the workers of the world coming together and finding their liberty. So that gives you an idea of the first half. I won't go through all of them.
Also, so obviously we're presenting this piece for the first time, so there are no existing recordings. In fact, I was amazed that Christian had a recording. So was that from our rehearsals or?
Yeah, the one that I told you.
Oh yes, on Saturday, I think maybe.
Huh?
Was it Saturday or Monday morning?
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of the last days.
Somewhere in the process. So like this is hot off the press. So it's very exciting, and it was also for us a discussion about the role of text versus music. This is not with a singer, so it's music that is that tells a story just through musical means, but it is inspired by this poetry. So. I believe we have some students from Holyoke High School who are going to come and help read some of this poetry at the event. We'll know for certain tomorrow. As I said, it's hot off the press. And so at this point I want to kind of introduce, we have about 10 more minutes, but I wanted to make sure that we introduce the two composers who are here for this year's residency, and just to invite them to talk about their music. I'm going to actually go first to Ivan, because I heard that Ivan actually wrote a piece also of this text.
Oh, no.
A different text.
Yeah, different type of same poet.
Yeah.
Because I'm obsessed with Julia. I mean, who can't? She's one of our best examples of literature, and she's admired through the whole of the Americas. So she's a great example, and I since I started composing, I've been very interested in the voice and in searching texts and a whole bunch of different sources to really get some sort of inspiration. I always landed on Julia. So yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know, who would have known that if we ended up here like, writing by the same. But yeah, regarding my process, it's so interesting hearing Christian talk, because Christian he's coming to the US to study, and he's been in the island, forever, right?
Yeah.
But then I moved here like around 4 or 5 years ago, and it's interesting because I see myself in him. When I was also studying in the conservatory, I looked outwards. I thought of music as, and I felt the very, very Puerto Rican identity in me as something that I needed to show outside of the Puerto Rican boundaries. Yeah. And that was very important to me until I got here. And when I got here, homesickness, and all of a sudden, all of my memories went back to bomba, to salsa, to plena, and it was almost, by accident that my music became more and more influenced and rhythmic and dense based on the layerings of the rhythms of bomba. And then obviously, things happen in our world, so I turned a sharp turn to write based on my own personal experiences here in the U.S. mainland. My main focus now is activism and social change in my music. So most of my focus has been writing. For example, I've been working on a project with a baritone friend of mine, and he commissioned me a piece that has to do with how can someone that it's part of not the minority be an ally. And on the other hand, then I also finished an orchestra piece that has to do with the experience of that minority that goes through a whole lot of different things to then find that ally. So I just I just find it very interesting because the experience, it just grows but at the same time, although I have all of those influences, they still kind of blend in, we take them and then we destroy them and then we put them back together, which is it's very interesting, yeah.
So would you share just a few words about the piece you're thinking of, or some of the ideas that
Yes.
you're working on?
So the piece that it was basically inspired by our conversation over the phone. We were talking about when we move, outside of our home to a different country, and then we stay there for a while, and then we go back. And when we go back, we obviously are inherently from that place, but there's always something that changed while you were outside. And although you feel at home, you also feel that home is slightly different. And when you're outside of home, you feel that you're not at home, but you're used to not being at home. So based on that, I chose the title Transmutación Inerte, or inert transmutation, because it's a change without changing, And then I chose different, the whole piece is based on the Sika rhythm, and with little quotations of, what's the name?
Rafael Hernández.
Yeah, Rafael Hernández, Lamento Borincano. Yeah, so I take the Lamento Borincano and I chop it up and put some things here and there and whatever. With all the time with the Sika rhythm being in there, like influencing and pushing things forward. And also because one of the things that it's not ignored in the island, but kind of, one would say, I don't know, like put together very cleanly, and look at it, we look at it very, the pretty angle is our Afro-Caribbean influence, and I think that's one of the things that we need to, show them more, the most.
Celebrate you.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And our last composer here with us today is Carlos Carrillo.
How long do we have?
We have about 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Half hour.
Some 5 minutes.
For record time.
All right. So let me just project something because
Sure.
to explain the piece. Something that will work.
Yes, it's perfect. His inspiration is visual.
Okay.
I'm actually curious to see this too. He's been telling me. I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
I haven't seen it.
Yes.
So, this piece is only 5 minutes. Should I play something on my music and then
Sure.
the new piece?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Piñero.
shoot this piece and
Miguel Piñero, sí, sí.
It's very short. Oh, that didn't connect it. Where's the audio? It's not short.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's supposed to, HDMI is supposed to take everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's not.
We can try again. Sure.
I know when it is.
If this album is actually on it.
Thank you.
It's coming up the computer.
Actually, we're soft enough here that we can hear it.
Okay, so
you just turn the thing to us.
Yeah, it's bigger.
Yeah.
So little. So this is the first movement of a guitar piece called Mariluna. And you can see the title that basically in English is The Reflection of the Moon of the Surface of the Water. And the reason I show this piece is because to explain the new piece I am doing for the victory players, you have to understand the way I work and do pieces. I do believe that whatever I do is Puerto Rican music. So I don't have to go back to, because it's in me. I mean, I grew up in Puerto Rico, and my mom always told me that when I was born, my uncle was the driver of the Clan Combo. So one of the first person who saw me, as a baby was Peñín Rodriguez. So, but Rafael lived in my grandfather's house, for a while. And that's part of me, that's part of my culture. And whenever I create something, it is Puerto Rican art. Because it's not limited to, one specific thing. When you think about cultures in the Caribbean, we are influenced by everything, and in the Caribbean we speak French, Dutch, we speak English and Spanish. So I do believe that we should be open to all of that. But when you look at this piece for guitar and the title, and you were wondering why the numbers keep getting smaller, if you look at the side. This is a collection of pieces that are a collection of lullabies. And I thought about what a lullaby do. What happens when you do that? And it's, you are singing until the baby falls asleep. And the idea that it's for music for children. And the children can play games even when they're trying to sleep. I know I have 3 kids, so I know what happens at the moment, how difficult it is. So it happened in all my music, but you can see it in this piece in particular that when I write music, it's not just that I write sounds, but it has to have more meaning. Like it's multiple levels of meaning and significance that I connect with other things. It could be art, it could be literature, it could be poetry. And in this case, I try to create games within the piece. So the reason that this is a part of the text is missing because actually it's a reflection of the moon of the surface of the water, and you're counting chips to fall asleep. All these pieces, it's like 24 pieces, they all have the music, but they create shapes. I have to move the music to the side and move the text, but it creates particular shapes. And you cannot see in this piece because it's only that shape. But the text actually in the actual title is a circle. And if you put all the music together, let me make it bigger so you can see it. When I put the music, actually move, everything go to the center, like everything aligns, so this go to the center, actually you do this wave like this. So when you look at the text, actually it looks like a circle, like the moon is reflected up on the music. And the reason the numbers are going down is because that part of the text that say, I'm counting chips, is actually counting all the way to 1 until you fall asleep. So it's counting, it's a mathematical game that the child is playing. So it's a multiple several meaningful things that go in the music. It's not just a sound, but I try to create music that have that. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, so I'd like to say that to explain the piece I'm doing for victory players. Because I am also basing that piece in multiple objects and multiple things. And for example, the title of the piece that Tia doesn't know the title yet. Is here, I have to explain it. This is, say, chapter 23, but actually it's just that paragraph. How many of you know this text? Okay, this text is the first book on a European language written in the Americas. This was actually written in 1498. It was right after, Columbus actually ordered this person to settle in the Dominican Republic and write while living with the Taínos. So it's the first text published in the Americas, but also is a text that is written with somebody living with Taínos. And as you know, they were completely eliminated. There was a genocide, they were gone. And there's many political things involved in this because he is living with them, but it's actually part of a process of destruction. Like he's learning what they're doing, but it's a horrible thing what's gonna happen. But he's, a fascinating thing is like, things that we know about the Taínos come through this text. Because he's writing about they did this, they did that, they believe in this. And he's talking about SME. If you're Puerto Rican, you know what SME is, yeah? You have a figure of SME. And he's saying this about one particular SME. Look at this one. Y dicen que cuando el sexo encoleriza, hace mover el viento y el agua. And it's a fascinating image, because the SME is a woman, and it says that when she gets upset, she sends water and wind to destroy everything. And basically, they're talking about hurricanes.
that he knew that when they, and the figure of the image of this figure of huracán, they said the one she sent is actually a circle with the hands like this, because spinning. The Taínos knew about hurricanes, and that had to do with the piece. So that's the title of the piece. It is one the next that send that. Something happened 2 years ago. You know about Maria and how it affected Puerto Rico, but something has happened to me personally, and is that right at the beginning of the year, my father fell ill and he was unconscious basically for the whole year. And when he was alive, he keeps saying that one day a hurricane is going to come and completely, cut Puerto Rico in half. And every time a hurricane approached, he was all like crazy, like, oh, it's gonna this is the time. But it never happened. So the time that it actually happened, he was completely unconscious and in a bed, basically dying. For me, it was fascinating. Like, I told my mom, like, he was always afraid of this, and now that it's happening, he had no idea this is happening. He's at peace, basically, because he couldn't move, he couldn't talk, he couldn't do anything. And I thought about that image of my father, basically unconscious in sleep. He was connected to machines to keep breathing, and the hurricane is ranging around, and we actually called. I called Puerto Rico like many of us did, and I couldn't get in contact up to 2 weeks later. But he told me, oh, he's fine, the machines are working, and he's perfectly fine. But he never knew that this actually happened. And that became the principle of a piece of music, that this idea that something is gaining wind, spinning, then this storm happened, and then peace come after that. So that's what you were playing at the end. The third movement is basically at the end, after this peaceful moment. And that image that something is completely storming, destruction, nature destroying something, but something is beautiful at the same time. So I mentioned I get influenced by many things. The piece is basically in 3 parts, and the first part is based on another piece of art by Lillian Blakes, who's a Bahamian artist. And there is something about her mother, so I put her mother and my father in the outsides. And her mother died when she was born. And she told me that, well, let me go a second. I said, we have only 10 minutes and now well, I can keep talking while I come back. She told me that her mother died when she was giving birth to her, and that all her work referred to that. Like, she's trying to find that moment again. And it's beautiful art, this is just a fragment. They are huge pieces of art. And I wrote a piece, the first movement, based on that, basically, that the island is being formed, something is being given birth, and life is coming out of death. And that is that movement, that I reflect on that movement to create the piece. The second movement referred to the actual stormy principle, and you can see these fragments of her art, that when it's done, this actually going in the wall is in Bahamar, in Bahamas, 2 big canvases. And this is what I created for that piece. Each sheet do these pretty fragments, and I put fragments of music to connect with the whole art that she's doing. So it's reflecting on what she's doing. And then the other artist, another Bahamian artist called Robert, that create these figures. And they're sideways. And this is the last movement that we play today. And basically, he creates sculptures out of dead trees. So I feel that as, nature and destruction, humanity, how we deal with it, and the idea that out of a dead nature, he's creating new art. So basically, that whole thing about death and giving birth to something else, and then the interaction between man and nature. And you will wonder why it's in German, being Puerto Rican. That will take me another 10 minutes, so I won't say it now.
Come to the concert.
Exactly. But basically, that's how I create art, and that's why I'm doing for retail players. And the piece is still in process, so I still have to write all this down. So sorry you're the first people to hear this. Sorry if I bore you with all this information. But basically, that's how I create works. So thank you.
Thank you. So I wonder if anybody has kind of final questions for our 4 composers here in general.
I can do the political question.
Yes.
you know that reggaeton is a very controversial music in Puerto Rico. Do you consider reggaeton Puerto Rican or no Puerto Rican? That is a debate that among musicians around here, especially salseros y música típica.
You go first.
Say, oh, no, that's not music.
No, yeah, I totally consider Puerto Rican, even though it wasn't born in Puerto Rico. It was born between Panama and the dance hall from Jamaica. And it's basically, you know, they took the ideas and they started rapping on top of that. Then they both started developing. But yeah, I totally consider Puerto Rican music. And the reason is because, you know, again, it's a reaction to what's happening in the island. And you cannot take that away, even though I don't like the music. They're reacting to what is happening, and that is real. And they are writing songs about what they're living. So I totally consider it music, totally consider it Puerto Rican music, and a really valid form of art. If for me at least, like not consider that would be actually like, in a way, kind of erasing a part of the history. You know, for me, you cannot select like the parts that you like of history. You know, you have to see the whole picture. And for me, it's a really important influence in the 90s when it started to kind of forming, and then the 2000s. It's really important for me growing up during the 2000s. It's you know, it's when I think about my childhood. Yeah, reggaeton was really present, even though I did not listen to it. My brother listened to it. My friends listened to it. So yeah, it's a really big influence, and that it actually affects you and affects other people. Yeah.
That's a political answer.
Yeah. No, I mean, even musically, technically, it's Puerto Rican music for many reasons. One of them is that Puerto Ricans do it and popularize that. And that's significant history. I mean, you cannot take that away. You say salsa, when people get us like, that's Cuban music, and I say, yeah, but the ways have been changed and transformed is no longer that. It has been transformed into something else. And you have to take that into account. And musically, the basic rhythm of the reggaeton is not even from Jamaica or Panama. It is a rhythm that has been used for centuries.
Yeah.
Because it's the same rhythmic pattern that is used in tango, in habanera. It's the same rhythmic pattern that is all over from Argentina all the way to the Caribbean. So we all share that. It's part of our African heritage. So it's exclusive to one place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, that's one thing. So yeah, I say it's like what I was saying before, like the Caribbean and the Americas is just a mix of everything that is being one thing, and then we just put it together. So yeah, even if you don't like the text, that's fine with the music. Yeah, okay, I understand that. I listen to Calle 13 and I think he's a genius, but you know.
And because
he's brilliant. And if you think about rap, like that's not Puerto Rican, I mean, when people tell me, yeah, there's some rap there, but rap was born in the South Bronx, and who live in the South Bronx? You know, it's many Puerto Ricans were involved at the birth of rap music. So, yeah, it's part of, you cannot separate that, and it's part of the history, so yeah, anyway.
Social justice.
Well, I think an element that, you know, we might be overlooking that it's extremely important, which is I think is one of the things that kind of dilutes things a little bit and makes it so hard, is that we have the internet now, and globalization. It's such a powerful thing that when something happens here, it's not just happening here, it's happening all around the globe. So when something, for example, if it started in New York or Panama or anywhere else, and someone felt inspired or liked it or whatever, and did it somewhere else, and it just happened to popularize in that place, then they take ownership. And I think that's one of the things that happened with reggaeton. Regarding musical elements, what Carrillo is saying, it's one of the most important aspects of it. With rhythm and with music, we have just so many sounds and rhythms that it will get reused somehow. Oh, yeah. So we just share that all over, you know.
I love the interrelated pieces in regards to mom. how you take that and put your music together. Julia Burgos, of course, I'm thinking about Miguel Piñero, that's actually one of my guys from New York City. But I love the interrelated pieces, and we're not just defining music through being Puerto Rican. Puerto Rican defines itself by the diverse, I think we're pretty diverse in different things. So I enjoy the conversation, the education behind that. Because I'm thinking salsa, I'm thinking bachata, merengue kind of deal. All right, so I listened to the first piece, and I'm like, okay. So transcending what I know and just moving forward, I think that's a good lesson to learn.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that this is the first step in a long relationship between the library and the project and MIFA. And we can expand in the future to Springfield. That in fact one of the sons of the Grand Combo live in Springfield.
Yeah, right.
Thank you everybody for coming today. Thank you to our composers for joining us.